Richard Akinnola, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
Thank you.
You have written a book, fellow countrymen, the story of coup d'états in Nigeria. Why did you write this book?
Well, first of all, history has been something that has been alien to this Gen Z, as you put it. And when people don't understand our history, they tend to abuse the privilege they have today. So when we hear some people, some ill-informed people, particularly young generation, talking about, let the military take over, let the military take over, I say, you people don't know where we are coming from. So, and in our attempts to situate where we are coming from and the damage done by the military, that's why, one has to get this book out so that they can understand the danger of their call for the military. And my position is, irrespective of whatever challenges we may have, the fight and whatever disagreements, we can blow each other, but we shouldn't, by any stretch of imagination, be calling back the military. So anybody who has read this book and see the damage the military has done, even to itself, will not even think of a military government. It's a situation in which officially we have 117 people publicly executed. The list is in the book. And in a particular instance, Orkar's coup, 68 were executed. We have shed so much blood, and we shouldn't be talking about military coup. So we need to learn from where we missed it, and we need to learn from our history, from where we are coming from.
When you listen to the Gen Zs, they will refer you to Burkina Faso. They like the Traore guy there.
Yes, I say, but you see, those are things that don't happen regularly. Burkina Faso is not Nigeria. Nigeria is a big country. We have 200 million people. Burkina Faso is just the population of Burkina Faso is less than Lagos. So we cannot compare Burkina Faso to Nigeria, irrespective of whatever. Yes, we know what Traore was doing, what Sankara was doing, in the 80s, but they are two different things.
In the book, you gave the statistics. Chapter 1 is the statistics. Coups, 117 publicly executed since 1976.
Yes.
And chapter 2, entitled The Revolutionaries. There you looked at the account of the murder of Premier of Northern Nigeria. Who are these revolutionaries?
Nzeogwu and his 5 majors.
Why do you call them revolutionaries?
Because that was the first time in the history of Nigeria, political history of Nigeria, we had such a military intervention. And it wasn't just a military intervention, it was, should I say ideological, because of the way Nzeogwu's coup was couched. It was not, talking about it, the 10%ers, the corruption, and the rest of it. So, it was something alien to us. So, and it was a major revolution that happened in Nigeria. And perhaps, even though Lieutenant Colonel Inyam, who was the leader of the Orkar's coup, we keep on saying they were the revolutionaries. Because he said, each time they interviewed him, he said what happened was, what they did was not a coup for the revolution. Well, that's his own interpretation. But the Nzeogwu's coup, that was a revolution.
Then chapter 3, the Northern Revolt, the genesis by the government. Inaugural speech of Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon. One thing I noticed in this book is that you got documents of the past.
Yes.
And you gave us those documents. Read this document.
Yes.
How did you source your document?
In fact, that was what Chief Akinjide was saying. Akinjide told me, where did you get all this information? That you must have contacts in some high places. I said, well, thank God.
And chapter 4 is the overthrow of Gowon by his close ally, The same close allies put him there, you know.
Of course, I mean, Jogaba was his, I think was his in-law there, but I mean, they are for the same Plateau State.
Even Murtala Mohammed.
Yes.
These were the guys who really carried out the counter-coup.
In fact, it was Gowon's coup. It was announced by Jogaba, his commander of Brigade of Guards. So you cannot just say because somebody is from your town, they maybe put him at the very sensitive position. You can always move against him.
And chapter 5 of the book is the dawn to dusk curfew. So here you look at the Dinka coup. You know, what was wrong with Dinka?
Maybe he was drunk. Maybe I'm sure he was somewhat of a unstable character, because how was he arrested in Abakaliki? It was with a prostitute. Somebody was running away from law and was still commingling with a prostitute.
Perhaps he was tired of running. He was tired of running, because if you see what it took him to get to that point, perhaps he was tired and said, okay, let me die having fun. But the way he went for Murtala Mohammed.
Yeah, it was gruesome. It was gruesome. You know, the way these people think. When you read, I used some excerpt in this book, a brief excerpt. When you read the book of Captain Tolofari, one of the leaders of the Orkar coup, who escaped and wrote a book.
Yes.
When you read some of he said at Ojo cantonment, he went to go and see his cosmate or whatever that's, if you do anything, I'll shoot you. Just, they are not, at that point, they are not normal.
It's about life and death.
Yes.
You know, even when Babangida met him at Radio Nigeria, while they were negotiating.
Yeah.
Because by this time, the chief of army staff had given Babangida order to go and dislodge him. That was Danjuma. Was the chief of army staff.
Yes.
You know, the way he negotiated. And I was saying, Dimka, you're not in a hurry to leave here. your coup is failing. You know, it also tells me about the desperation for power. And when they get power under that kind of situation, one can imagine what they would do with it.
Sometimes, because one needs to psychoanalyze what soldiers at that level, how they think. Because go back to the Orkar school, which is, 35 years now. And when Orkar was at Bonnet camp, he refused to run. When his comrade had disappeared, he waited for them to arrest him. And I recall that because I covered the trial at Victoria Island, the Air Force base in Victoria Island, because I stood just in front of them when they were brought to the tribunal, at the opening of the tribunal. And they looked unfazed. In fact, for my contact in the Kirikiri prison, the day they were to be executed, when they were bringing it out, it was the one, according to the warders, it was the one telling them, brace up, guys. So when they were being led to the execution stakes.
Tell me about the Orkar you saw at the court.
It was unfazed, it was unperturbed, and from what I gathered, he said he was not going to say anything until Babangida comes to give evidence. That he wasn't going to say anything.
So he didn't say anything?
No. I saw people, young guys, Lieutenant Ode, Captain Imperi, and the rest of them. I saw them. Then Lieutenant Akogo, he was shot. Maybe when he was arrested. He came on the wheelchair. He was shot. He had a POP on his leg. And so I saw people who are just unfazed,
You know, they say Inyam led the coup, but we call it the Orkar coup.
Maybe because Orkar was the one who announced the coup. But Inyam was the most senior. And even from the accounts of Katafutulofari. I think Major Mukoro was actually the brain behind. It was the brain box of the coup itself. Very brilliant, intelligent officer.
But it was clear that coup wasn't going to fly.
Yeah,
considering the way the military is structured.
Yes, because I think for them to excise some parts of the country, that was stupid.
And they didn't even have anybody that was in command of troops.
Yes, but you see, when you read that book again, Captain Dolofari, I used part of it.
Yeah.
You see, they didn't have command, but they were able to break into the armory that morning, because I witnessed what was happening that day at my two, because Ojo cantonment was in battleground and the signal barracks in my two. When they were shooting, they had to keep on dodging, and just to report live what was happening. So it was, and they broke into the armory, both in what's it called, Ikeja cantonment, then Ojo cantonment, all those things.
They almost got Babangida.
As a matter of fact, what's the name of this guy who was in charge of the Doran barracks? I forgot his name. It's one Igbo chap who was among them. And my friend Azuka, who is based in US, is a journalist, interviewed him in Punch some few years ago. That that he saw Babangida and he could have blasted the whole place. Say, but he didn't want to. Say he wanted to capture him alive.
Because Babangida narrated his ordeal.
Yes.
They almost got him.
Yeah.
They almost got him, and he appreciated his ADC for a job well done.
Interestingly, I was reading Colonel. What's the name on this colonel that was arrested during the so-called Obasanjo's coup. So he was saying that UK Bello, that's Edis to Babangida, saw Unyam, and they were conspirates. I said, "Why are you doing this to me?" So, but at that time, there was no party for jungle.
No party for jungle. Chapter 6 of the book, Fellow Countrymen, The Story of Coup D'états in Nigeria, by Richard Akinnola. Chapter 6 is Mandara's coup against Shagari. The return of the military is chapter 7. And chapter 8 is Babangida's palace coup. The way Buhari was swept out, it was so easy.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, who was, I think one of the participants narrated that Babangida was just waiting. I think Abdul Mumuni, Major Abdul Mumuni and Dangiwa are the one that came to the Doran barracks, and the man was just waiting there without any resistance.
Why was Buhari so relaxed when he knew that the Babangidas were around him?
I can't just understand that kind of person.
Perhaps Buhari is not strategic.
He wasn't. Definitely.
Because it's one of the easiest coups in the history of Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't strategic.
No gunshot.
Yeah. Although I think this man was killed now. I didn't by error. I think it's in the book. One of the officers was killed in error in that during that palace coup.
Okay. Are you sure it's not the Shagari coup?
No.
The one that brought Buhari?
No.
Okay. Now, another chapter here is the poet's coup. That's chapter 9. The poet is Mamman Vatsa.
Yes.
So why did you call it the poet's coup?
He was a poet. He was a member of Nigerian Association of Nigerian Author, ANA. He was a member. He was a poet, fantastic writer, and he was, and even in the course of the trial, it was still his poetic self, because during they call it allocutus. allocutor is when after you have been convicted, you are found guilty, when you now make your plea. So, and before sentence, the tribunal chairman, General Ndiomu, was mistakenly called one of his hobbies, the hobbies of Vatsa, as pornography. So in that one, corrected, it's not pornography, it's photography.
Look at what Babangida said here. He said, when the coup was first uncovered, I did not quite believe the extent of Vatsa's involvement. Even worse were the details of the dastardly plans, including plans to bomb the Eko Bridge in Lagos and possibly hijack the presidential jet to eliminate the president.
I don't believe that story of trying to bomb a Eko Bridge. No, I don't believe all those stories. You see, for example, any coupist will want to say things that will titillate the ears, and whoever foils a coup will also try to exaggerate the extent of the plan just to, gain public acceptance, stability that these people try to destroy this country. So I don't believe that. The Vatsa thing, quite frankly, is still subject of lots of controversies. Apart from the fact that himself and Babangida were childhood friends, in fact, best friends. And I suspect, just like Gerard Donkabali said in an interview in the News and TSM, that it seems that there was a rivalry between the duo. That's Vatsa and IBB. They are from the same Niger State. They grew up together. One was best man to the other.
They went to the same secondary school.
They wore each other's dresses. All the so, and when what's his name, Domkabali was saying that even though yes, he was asked as the chief of defense staff to announce the execution of Vatsa, but he still doubted if there was enough evidence. It's just like what happened in Dimka's coup. I can't remember precisely which of the officers. So when the matter was brought to the Supreme Military Council after the tribunal had finished the job and was brought to the Supreme Military Council for ratification, there was one particular officer that the tribunal wasn't too sure whether he was involved, he was not involved. So, and when there was voting at the SMC, there was a tie. So, remaining the president to actually break that tie, to either go or not, and unfortunately, Obasanjo voted for the guy to be executed. I would have thought that if there had been some semblance of doubts, both from the tribunal and from other members of the SMC, you should have just, give him, terms of imprisonment. But he voted for him to be executed. So the same thing, based on what Domkabali said, it appears there wasn't so much of enough evidence linking Vatsa to that coup. So I think because of the rivalry between the two of them. And of course, because if there was no, to tell you how close they were, the issue of Gloria Okon, it comes to fall. Because it was Vatsa, from my sources, it was Vatsa that got the Gloria Okon issue, that shipped the woman out of the so-called. Gloria Okon was just a pseudonym. Is the actual woman was taken out, that was alleged to be a courier for Miriam, and it was Vatsa, in an attempt to cover up the whole thing, was one that they brought a dead body from wherever and named her Gloria Okon to give the impression that was the drug courier that had died in custody. So that shows how close they were to cover up whatever the tracks of his friend's wife.
Babangida in his book says, as the details kept coming in, it became harder not to believe the integrity of the disclosures. I felt a deep personal sense of betrayal. There were details of conversations, funding, travel itinerary, and recruitment of troops to support the operation. Each time, I had to be briefed on aspects of the coup plot. I insisted on having a senior officer with integrity present as a witness. I invited Garba Duba to listen in on one occasion as the investigating team briefed me. When I shrugged in disbelief, the briefing officer then revealed that Vatsa had even tried to escape through the wall air conditioner hole in his detention room, but was stopped by vigilant guards.
Of course, anybody in that kind of circumstance will want to escape if he has any opportunity. And don't forget that the Trump up coup against Obasanjo's group, where this man was
Dear?
No, the 1995 Obasanjo's own, the so-called coup, Obasanjo 1995, where Obasanjo was they lied against him. So anybody can lie against anybody, and because from all sources, many people doubted the involvement of Vatsa. So, and that's no matter what IBB says. I mean, when IBB keep on talking about his friends. Okay, Vatsa was your childhood friend. You executed him. Abiola was your friend. You cancelled his election and he died in custody. You claimed Delegate was your friend and he died in. So, is that how your friends always die?
There's a part of your book that I'll be looking at. But let me deal with IBB's book.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned childhood.
Yeah.
IBB said, with the benefit of hindsight, now, I recall that a constant part of our relationship as teenagers and young men was a continuous and recurrent pair jealousy on his part towards me. He was always envious of my achievement, especially when he thought I was progressing better than him, either in school or our military career path. For instance, when I became head boy at Bida Secondary School, Vatsa often made it a duty to put obstacles in my way as a leader. He frequently disregarded my instructions, insisting that there was nothing so special about being the head boy. That trend continued through our military career, but tended to diminish as we both progressed in our respective military careers. Still, he was envious of my career path and posting up to when I was chosen as a member of the Supreme Military Council under General Murtala Mohammed.
It's not enough to say such things when the person you are accusing is not around to rebut your assertions. Anybody can say anything when there's somebody to rebut your assertions. It's just like when IBB was talking about on June 12th, Abiola is dead, Humphrey Wosu is dead, Ato Ezerebe is dead, Clement Akpangbo is dead, all your witnesses are dead, and you are now telling lies. Abacha is dead. So, and now say all those things against Vatsa, who is not here to respond to your allegations. Vatsa could have a similar, perspective that you are envious of him in terms of intellectual capacity, because Vatsa was intellectual as a poet. So he could have said, if he were to be alive, he could have said that you have been envious of him because of his level of intelligence.
You said in your book, in view of the apparent lacuna in the explanations of the government as to the rationale and the proposed modus operandi of the coupists in the alleged plans to bomb bridges in Lagos, these explanations were received with some skepticism. Even General Donka Bali, who was the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff,
yes,
and who was asked by Babangida to announce their execution in March 1986, could not say with certainty that the alleged plans to bomb Lagos was actually true.
Precisely.
Why did you start this chapter with a poem written by Mamman Vatsa?
Because of the title, Judgment Day.
That day now,
That day now,
I go be poor man to talk as rich man. The thing wey Mama Angelina do, Papa Angelina go know that day. Argument no go dey. People wey no shop suffering for this world. That day, them no go see chop lie. Judgment day. That day na wa. And he saw his judgment day.
Yes. Tori getting K-leg. That was the title. Judgment Day. That's why I titled it Judgment Day. Because when I looked at the picture of them on the day they were being condemned to death, I saw as how Nigeria is just wasting their best brains. I know it's.
In writing this book, you have brought Mamman Vatsa to the fore. Do you think Mamman Vatsa is worth celebrating?
Well, not necessarily because as a military man, but see, wherever we find injustice, no matter who is involved, we highlight it. So, and in this particular instance, yes, Mamman Vatsa is a military man, doesn't matter, but as far as this issue is concerned, there are lots of doubt about his culpability, otherwise.
And his family has never taken it lightly.
Precisely.
And you stated it here in your book. The alleged role played by Vatsa, who was alleged by the government to be the leader of the coup, is shrouded in mystery. His family has consistently been harping on his innocence.
Yes, precisely. Even his wife and children.
While it's also been touted that there was no love lost between Vatsa and Babangida, who it is believed felt uncomfortable with Vatsa's rising intellectual profile.
Yes.
With the possibility that he could be a threat to him.
Precisely.
Would Babangida want to kill him in that case?
Look, anything can happen.
He can retire him.
Anything can happen. Look, anything can happen. Because when you, based on what Babangida said in that book, that this guy was envious of me. So anything can happen. So, and unfortunately, Vatsa is not around to rebut whatever Babangida said. And when you say somebody was your close friend, childhood friend, and when that thing happened, I recall that some years later, Babangida was interviewed, and he said that I felt bad watching the video of his execution. No, it wasn't made public. They would just video it and go and show to him. It's only those of us in Vanguard, close to Kirikiri, that knew when they were being executed. Because, Kirikiri prison, just a distance from Vanguard. So we hear the staccato or stand, so we knew when they were being executed. The same thing during the Orkar school, when they were being executed, so, and it's so surreal when you see how blood just being wasted unnecessarily. It's unfortunate.
Have we recovered from that era as a country?
I don't think so. I don't think so. That's why I never wished for any military government at all, because you decimate the ranks and file over suspicion. This one is planning coup. If somebody does something, you're planning something, you detail somebody after him, and it's absolutely unnecessary.
I was speaking with a retired military officer recently in a private conversation.
Yes.
He said they were even so scared of even visiting themselves.
Yes.
Because you don't even know who you visit, and they will tell you tomorrow is among the coup planners.
Precisely.
He said he could never make telephone calls because he didn't know who was listening.
Yes. Precisely. Because everybody's a suspect. You know, because when it comes to your coup, even your wife doesn't know when you're planning. Doesn't know. I think it was Shola or Shukeyabi. Who was it? I think it was Shola who interviewed Orkar's wife. I mean, some few years ago. I mean, he never knew what the husband was planning. He never knew.
You know, chapter 10 of your book is the April 22 revolution. That is the Orkar coup.
Yes.
And you have chapter 11, Child of Necessity. Test of broadcast by General Sani Abacha. And you have the Phantom Case. You looked at Lawa Gwadabe, the Special Military Tribunal.
If you knew what that man went through, the torture.
Gwandabe?
Kai. It's in that book. It's in the book. The torture. In fact, you know, when they torture somebody and, you know, when they want to barbecue somebody, the way they stretch that person. He said he was tortured to the point that he lost his limbs for almost 2 months. That when he was now thrown into the Land Rover, that one of the officers, one of the soldiers was weeping when he saw the level. In fact, it's a miracle that that man is still alive and he could still use his hands and legs based on the torture he went through.
You know, one of them, Fadile, wrote a book recently.
Yes.
They should tell their story.
He was the one that was threatening to implicate Obasanjo. And you know, during the Dia coup, it was this late man now, former Dr. I forgot his name, who was a special advisor to Dia. He was also arrested and tried. They said it was Mohammed Abacha was using electric shock on him.
The son of Abacha?
Yes. No, we have gone through terrible times that I don't ever wish. That's why when I look back at my own experience, I mean, that I could have been dead when I was abducted. So, and all those things, and when you look at all the various experiences, I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best.
You know, being a journalist under that kind of atmosphere, what was it like?
In fact, we didn't have phones, no internet, but we were courageous. And I recall that tell editors they can go and meet through signals. You can meet in a filling station. That's when during the time of guerrilla journalism. And sometimes in a cemetery when nobody
you meet in a cemetery?
Yeah, we suspect that time. Yes, now when nobody will suspect you, and of course when we wanted to have because I was involved in the civil society and pro-democracy, so when we want to have maybe a meeting or a seminar where to plan some things, we just do banner like a church banner. So we put the church banner outside as if it was a church service was going on, just as a decoy. So many things that we had to improvise to survive and outsmart the military people. And of course, not all of them are bad though. Some of them didn't like what was going on, and they come and inform us. Like Dakparo Yomi was, it was through an informant in the military that leave Nigeria now, otherwise if you stay 24 hours you are dead. They will tell you, I mean, they are coming for you. And you know those people, do you know that somebody, a journalist in the news told me that the Megad in front of the news was a SSS agent. The Megad selling all this. So, no, give it to them. And if you remember the Buhari's coup that overthrew Shagari, Jakonde was the governor. Alhaji Jafojo was the deputy governor. So when the coup happened, guess who arrested the Alhaji Jafojo? His cook. He was undercover, but he didn't know.
His cook?
Yes.
Was undercover?
Was the one who arrested him.
His cook was a member of the military?
Well, I don't. And this whether the NSO they call him by all this was undercover. It was the one who arrested him.
So he knew everything that was going on in the house.
Yes. He thought he was just dealing with an ordinary cook. No, it was undercover. So give it to them.
How do you feel as a writer?
Well, it's wonderful, quite frankly, because when you impact knowledge, you research. Like Professor Ishibayo told me in 2009 during the launch of my book on Ghani, he said, look, the books you are writing is for future generation. That is for future generation, that you have to look for your books for research. Because like this particular book, I mean, a number of them, people have used it for research purposes, doctorate thesis and stuff like that. So that gladdens my heart that, I mean, one can add one or two things to people's progress.
Are we reading enough in this part of the world?
Well, I don't think so. But now that with internet, unfortunately, the Gen Zs are more into TikToking than actually reading about. So that's why my Facebook page, I try as much as possible to educate people and bring and see something happening now and tie it back to what has happened before. For example, how many people knew anything about Alhaji Shugaba that was once deported into the Chad? I mean, majority leader of Borno State House of Assembly. So how many people knew that Gadifa Hemi was once deported from Port Harcourt? He went to go and address a rally during the Ogoni struggle. And as he was landing in Port Harcourt, it was the same plane, they took him back, inside the plane to take him back. On the orders of Lieutenant Colonel Dada Komu, the military administrator. So we need to let people know what has happened in this country. So whatever is happening today, we tie it back to what has happened so that we can now. So as I said, that history, nobody can do, like Fale we say, nobody can do boju for us. Like when Babangida now came and started talking, everybody came out and said, no, my friend, you can't, revisionism, you can't, there's no way for revisionism at this time because all of us know what's happening.
Fellow countrymen, the story of coup d'états in Nigeria by Richard Akinnola is a book to read. Get your copy. Richard Akinnola, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thanks so much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.